What's going on, guys? Nathan Lombardo here with Lambo Media, joined by special guest Thomas Hackimer. He's in the Minnesota Twins organization. Thank you for joining, Thomas. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining. So first and foremost, you went from a 6.20 ERA in the 2018 season, and then you transitioned to a 2.54 ERA in 2019. What was the biggest adjustment you made during that offseason?
The biggest adjustment was I had shoulder surgery. I had actually been hurt for most of the 2018 season. I only pitched like 20 or so innings, I think, and I shouldn't have even tried to throw those. It's just I was very frustrated and trying to like push through the injury, basically, when I should have just accepted it and taken more time to figure out what was wrong. And after I went back on the DL to finish that season, I went home and saw a doctor who did my knee surgery when I was in college, actually, and it turns out he was actually a very prominent shoulder surgeon as well, which I didn't know. And he found what was wrong, which was that my bicep tendon was slipping in and out of the groove that it sits in while I throw, and it would get really irritated, and it just got to a point where it was no longer like a mild irritation, and just it was a relatively serious pain.
Right.
So he did it. I had surgery at the beginning of October, and they moved my bicep tendon over to where the other head of the bicep connects, which is under your collarbone, basically. And after that, I was ready to play when the 2019 season started up. And throwing without pain is definitely a lot easier than throwing with it.
It feels a lot better now.
It feels great. I wish I'd known that this was an option years ago. I would have done it a long time ago if I knew.
Yeah, that's good. So you've been with multiple levels at the minor league level. What have you noticed a huge skill set difference when transitioning from level to level?
I found that there's less what you would call, holes in the lineup. There's less guys that are, easy outs. And as you get higher up, the approaches of the hitters obviously get more advanced. So it's been a challenge to adjust to that, I suppose. Especially a lot more like right-handed hitter. I'm a right-handed side armor, so obviously right-handed hitters are generally pretty easy for me. But I've found at higher levels, like very good hitters will go up there with a really, really specific approach.
Right.
And if I can't work that out in time, what they're trying to do, then there's a much better chance that they will, make solid contact off me.
Yeah, it's definitely understandable. And as a senior in college at St. John's, you were awarded the Big East Pitcher of the Year, and then you went on to be drafted in the 4th round by the Twins. How much of an impact do you think that season alone impacted where you fell in the draft?
It was a huge impact. That was by and far the best even to this day, that season was some of the best pitching I've ever done. It was a big. I'd been drafted by the Mets the year before in the 15th round, and I decided to go back to school after some difficult negotiations, is how I'll put it. But I decided to go back and sort of bet on myself in that way. So there was a lot of, I guess, pressure going into it, but it was also a lot of motivation to try to, prove that I had made the right decision. But yeah, I think that the way that I threw that year had a massive impact on the fact that I jumped up.
Right. When did you really notice you were capable of playing pro baseball?
I believed it even after like my freshman year of college, just because I rolled into college having never pitched, or like not pitched competitively in like 5 years, throwing from a new arm slot with effectively no idea of what I was doing. I was throwing like 80 to 83. I had no off speed, and I was still getting outs and doing pretty well. And I was like, I could do this. And I'm gonna have more time to figure out like how to be better. Like I'm gonna be better than I am right now.
Yeah.
I was 160 pounds, and I hadn't, I'd never lifted weights. I had never, I was still learning how to pitch and what was going on there. And the fact that I was succeeding at that point kind of put it in my head, like, oh yeah, I could probably I could probably do this. And then as I kept going through, it was like my end of my sophomore year into my junior year where I finally realized it was like a very realistic thing. I started throwing harder, and I was actually getting to the point where I was uh, I was getting to the ability level that I thought I could be at, which is it was a more professional quality ability level. So that was when it really solidified that I could do it. And then, but it started my freshman year when I, basically had no idea and things were still going well. I was just like, oh yeah, like this could work.
So in high school, you really didn't think you were capable of playing pro baseball?
Oh no, I was a shortstop and I hit my career high school average is like 150, and I might be stretching that. Uh, I could field the ball, I could throw it across the diamond relatively well, but I couldn't hit. So it was never really I just wanted to play in college at that point.
Yeah.
But it was never. I had no shot. I had no shot at playing professionally as a hitter.
Yeah. So in 169 innings pitched, you have a sub 2.8 career ERA. How are you able to stay consistent throughout your whole career thus far?
I think it was. This also goes back to college. I think at one point I was struggling, and my pitching coach stuck me with another one of the relievers to throw, and he had this really, really obsessive routine that he went through every day. And I had to go through it with him because he was my throwing partner. It forced me to like develop my own routine. I think that has helped a lot throughout because I've still stuck with it. The routine has changed, but the concept of having one has stuck with me, and I think that has helped a lot. It helps me like every day kind of assess where I'm at, so I know what adjustments I might need to make that day. And obviously sometimes it doesn't work, but knowing that I can go back to that has been, I think, sort of a comfort. It's like a good like reset point, sort of.
Yeah. You mentioned a routine. What does your pregame routine look like on a day where you're gonna pitch?
I mean, I never know if I'm gonna pitch, which is kind of the fun part of being a reliever. But it's mostly at this point, I get to the park pretty early, and depending on the facilities, I go through a bunch of sort of like prehab exercises, do a little arm care, some stuff for my right knee, which I had surgery on back in college. And then I'll try to get all that stuff done pretty early. And more people start showing up to the park. I'm a pitcher, so we sit around and play cards.
Yeah.
Makes up a good part of my day. Get ready to go out and throw. I go out, we stretch, warm up. I go through my plyo routine, my driveline stuff, and throw. Usually not too far, just because I'm a reliever and I could have to go 2 innings on any given day, if maybe more, but that's not really my thing.
Right.
Like just get the arm loose, stretch it out, bring it back in, spin a few, throw some change-ups, sliders, just make sure that everything's moving the right way and I have feel for it, or to see what I do and don't have feel for. Most days I try to avoid it if I threw off the mound the day before, or if I like pitched the day before. I try to get on the mound and throw 8 or so. Just same thing, just feel out where I'm at, and then head in, or shag VP depending on what we have to do, because pitchers have nothing to do but go in, eat, play more cards, and get ready for the game.
Yeah. And to move on from that, you were also a 3-time basketball letterman in high school. Do you think playing basketball in high school helped your skill set on the diamond?
Probably not, honestly. I got hurt playing basketball more than I actually stopped playing because I fractured a bone in my foot, which I found out was because I have a congenital deformity in my feet. But I don't think it really had much of an impact. It was just a fun way to stay in shape, and I love playing basketball. But unfortunately, I'm also 5'10", so my future in that game was evident.
You mentioned you've had a few injuries throughout your career. Have you stayed mentally strong throughout those?
Honestly, the knee surgery was pretty easy because ACL surgery is, I think, one of the most common surgeries that are It's one of the most common orthopedic surgeries that's done every year. So that one was pretty easy. It was on my right leg, so it wasn't. If it was on my left, because that's my landing leg, it takes more force. I would have probably been a little more concerned, but overall, that one wasn't too bad. For the feet thing, that happened way back in high school. I found that out that I have to wear orthotics that push the bones of my feet closer, so that no one of them is taking too much stress, and they won't start to break. So those were also pretty easy. And then the shoulder part, like I was hurt for most part of the year, and I did not stay mentally strong. I was all over the place. It was tough because I didn't know what was wrong, really. Yeah. Initially we thought it was a labrum issue, and I got an MRI, and there was an apparent slap tear, which I was like, all right, but almost all pitchers probably have some kind of a slap tear. The question was it getting worse? And I rehabbed for a while. It stopped hurting as much, and I started throwing again. I was throwing in like some scrimmages and stuff, and it didn't feel like the ball was coming out right. My velocity was down, which sometimes you can attribute to, just no adrenaline from no crowd and stuff, but like it didn't feel right. Like nothing was sharp. And I just sort of it's like, all right, I can't. I felt like I had missed a bunch of time already, and I didn't want to miss anymore, so I just kind of pushed through. Went back to playing, and it was like very evident that I was not where I was not healthy.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't doing well. My command was worse than usual, which is saying something. But and it just. I kept pressing through, and I kept getting angrier at the fact that I just didn't know what was wrong or why I wasn't the same. And I really thought that it was just going to be the end. Like, I don't know what's wrong. I cannot pitch the way I used to, and I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
Like, because no one comes back from labrum surgery the same as they used to be.
Right.
If that's the answer. And a lot of, we weren't even considering it because really, I was 24 in high A, and that's like a year plus recovery. That's just, and you're probably not going to be the same afterwards, and it might not even be feasible depending on the kind of tear. So it was really, really frustrating. And the reprieve from it really for me was when I finally went to go see a different doctor, and they were like, oh, well, this could be the problem, and this could be how we fix it. And that was all the bicep tendon stuff. And fortunately, that turned out to be the answer, and now I'm doing a lot better. But it was really difficult to even stay mentally if I didn't know that and I was still going through that same pain, I might not honestly still be playing. One, because I was terrible at the time, but it hurt so much and it just wasn't worth trying to push through.
Yeah, that makes sense. And to wrap it up, I've seen a bit of musical stuff on your social media platforms. Is that just a hobby for you, or are you trying to take that seriously as a career?
So I've played a musical instrument since I was 8 years old, I think. I started playing the trombone when I was 8. And as I played that up through my senior year of high school. I still have 2 trombones in my basement somewhere. But I know how to play a half dozen or so instruments, and it's always been a hobby. I don't know if I can, if when baseball's over, I can use that to springboard myself into a musical career after that. That'd be cool. But it's mostly just a hobby. Yeah. It's something to keep me sane during these somewhat boring times we're going through. Simultaneously boring and very exciting, I guess.
Right. So that wraps up all my questions. Thank you for joining this interview, Thomas. I wish you the best of luck in the rest of your career and stay safe and healthy.
Yeah, thank you very much. You too.
Thank you.